Hi, what's up everyone? Recently, I've been grinding out some builds for the St. Elmo's engine. Since I got it unlocked off the season track, I've had a lot of ideas, and one of the ideas was a DPS status effect build, which I've kind of done before for an SMG, and I really liked it. So I wanted to make it work for the St. Elmo's, and I came up with two variants. So today, I'm going to be showing you these two builds and how to make them. I'll be talking you through them. Before we get into this, if you do enjoy the video, please do give it a like and a share and subscribe for more content from me. So what I was trying to do with this build is I wanted to have as much status effect as I could have, but also as much damage as I could have as well. And I wanted the status effect to be there all the time, so like a constant. So we built the first version of the build I'm showing you today around the Ridgeway Pride exotic chest piece. The reason for this is because when you're within 15 meters of an enemy, you're going to be applying the bleed, and how we've built the build is that we're going to be doing more damage when an enemy has status on them. So the Ridgeway Pride worked great for this. We're able to apply that bleed, and then we're also able to apply other status effects as well on top of what the St. Elmo's engine does with the shock magazine as you get the stacks up. And you're applying a lot of status all of the time, and you're doing a good amount of damage with this build. Now this build is very good for casual play. I'd say it's very good for heroic with directives. I wouldn't be taking this into a legendary anytime soon, but for more casual play below legendary sort of difficulty, this build is absolutely fun to use, just like my SMG one that I made in the past. The build isn't too difficult to create either. There is obviously some farming involved, but we'll explain as we go. Starting with the specialization, you can use multiple. I've got the technician on right now because I've been testing it just to give my skills a little bit of a oomph, so I've got that extra skill tier. But gunner specialization is good for the extra rate of fire, the armor on kill that you get on that. Demolitionist would even work on this, but I'd say technician, gunner, or survivalist. The survivalist specialization gives your group extra damage against status affected targets. So as you're always applying a status, this works very well as well. So whatever specialization you want. Obviously, we're building this around the St. Elmo's engine. We all know what this does, so get one of those on the build. The secondary that I choose to use is the SMG, the named carburet. The reason for that is just because of the perfect thunderstrike. You can deal 40% extra damage to shock targets. So if you wanted to, I don't really play it this way, but if you shock a target with your St. Elmo, you can switch to this to do that extra damage and really delete them pretty much. Sidearm, whatever you want. Grenade, whatever you want. And then we've already said the build is built around the Ridgeway's Pride, so you're going to need one of these. Weapon damage, crit chance, crit damage, and a crit damage mod on that. And as I've already stated, what it does is when you're within 15 meters and you shoot an enemy, you get to put them on bleed right away, add in that status effect. And then how we use that is the backpack talents we're using Wicked. So when you apply a status effect, it increases total weapon damage by 18% for 20 seconds. So you're always increasing that damage on your build with the Ridgeway. Every time you put bleed onto somebody, you're proccing Wicked all of the time. And obviously we've got skills and the St. Elmo to also apply status effects. So we're always getting that Wicked talent procced pretty much. And the backpack I got here is the Cheska backpack. It's not optimized yet. We've got weapon damage, status effects, critical hit damage, and a critical hit damage mod there. We're also getting 10% critical hit chance from the piece. And then onto the mask, we're using the electric mask. This gives you status effects for one piece electric. And you also want to find it with status effects and critical hit damage already rolled on as attributes, so you can roll the core attribute weapon damage. This could be a little bit of a difficult farm because you've got to get those two attributes to roll weapon damage, which shouldn't be too bad, and throw a crit damage mod on that as well. Gloves, we've got golden gloves, and the same again with the electric. You're going to need to find crit damage and status effects already rolled as attributes, so you can roll weapon damage on these, and that again comes with 10% status effects for having that one piece. We've got Grupo knee pads to up our crit hit damage by 15%, weapon damage, status effects, and critical hit damage rolled. And in the holster, we've got a Fenris holster for the 10% AR damage, weapon damage, status effects, and critical hit damage rolled onto that also. The skills I've chose to go with is the Fire Starter Chem to apply burn to a target, and also the Burn Sticky Bomb. The Burn Sticky Bomb is really good for a quick double tap at a spawn, and the Fire Chem is just OP as well. I really enjoy using these. I tend to kind of like use this when there's a spawn and the enemies are shooting at it in a group. They'll then set them on fire for us, and we cause a lot of damage to them with our St. Elmo's. There's potential to have enemies on burn, shock, and bleed all at the same time. And the damage that this is putting out, if we go to the stats here, you can see that we've got 46% crit chance on the St. Elmos, which is really good considering we've only got the 1 crit chance roll on the Ridgeway. But this is what comes with the mods as well, and your watch being level 1000. And the critical hit damage on the build is 183.6%. So even though we are rolling a lot of status effects across the pieces, we're still hitting some very good damage numbers. As much as I like the build, I couldn't help thinking how good would the build be if I could add some spread to the status effect. So I was thinking along the lines of Creeping Death and adding that instead of Wicked, but then that didn't work so much with the Ridgeway Pride, so we had to alter the build a little bit, and this is what I came up with. It's very similar to the build that I just shown you with a few adjustments, and again you can use any of the mentioned specializations before for the same reasons. I've gone for Technician again for now, just for that increased skill tier for the skills. And it's the same weapons, the St. Elmos, the carburet, any handgun that you want, any grenade that you want. And it's the same backpack, but instead of having Wicked on it, we've got Creeping Death on it. We're still using weapon damage, status effects, crit damage, and Cheska for the crit chance. It's the same gloves with the crit damage and status effects and weapon damage. Same knee pads with the weapon damage, status effects, and crit damage. And then the left side of the build here is where we change things up a little bit. So we took out the Ridgeway Pride and we brought in the Providence Perfect Glass Cannon. This is going to increase damage to your skills and your weapons, even though you do take that extra damage. I quite like it. If you don't want Perfect Glass Cannon, then you could switch this out for something like a Fenris piece. So you still got the assault rifle damage on the build, and go with Obliterate if you're more comfortable with that. But I like Perfect Glass Cannon for that extra amplified damage. And then we've still got the electric piece on the build, but on the holster this time. And it's got weapon damage, status effects, and crit damage again. And that's because we brought in the Vial Mask, which basically just spreads like a damage over time status every time that you put someone on status, really. And when you spread that, that spreads to the other enemies also. So it's pretty good. It does put a skill tier on the build. So this current build is running at 2 skill tiers now with the Technician specialization. You do lose a little bit of damage there as well. But what this does, it's the same as the other build, really. You are putting out some damage, and good damage. Not as much damage, but now the status effects are spreading. When you do hit those spawns, you're doing more damage through your statuses. And if we go over to the stats, you can still see we're hitting very hard there. We've got 40% crit hit chance on the St. Elmo's engine and 166.1 critical hit damage. And if we swap it to the submachine gun that we've got as well, you can see we're nearly capped out there, and that's the same with the other build as well. The only thing I would say with this version of the build is because we're not using the Ridgeway Pride, I noticed that I wasn't using my weapon as much. I'd be more focused on using my fire chem or my sticky burn to get the statuses going. I'd be more focused in spawn points my group were kind of like aiming at. I'd make sure that I'd be getting the fire chem out when the enemy spawned, and then they would set off that status and that would get the spread on. And I found that I was kind of like treating it more as a crowd control build and the DPS build this way. And it did get me thinking, if I am using the build more as like a crowd control build, there's a gear set that's perfect for that, and that's Eclipse Protocol. That works very well with status effects, and I was wondering what would that look like with red cores. So we did put that together. I'm not covering that in this video today. That's going to be a separate one in a few days' time. So if you do want to see that build as well, make sure you hit subscribe. But this is the end of this video today. I do hope you enjoyed the builds. They are really fun. I know they're not going to be meta or anything like that, but I like just putting fun builds together. And I'd say out of the 2 that I've shown you today, my favorite is the Wicked one, just because it's more about damage. If I was to go more status and spreading that status, that Eclipse Protocol build I put together is probably what I'll go for. So make sure you check that out over the next few days. Thank you for watching this, and don't forget to like and share, subscribe for more. Until next time, stay safe and peace out.